morning, everybody. It's Tom Christie back in the carving shop, and this will be session 3 of carving a pair of Redhead Decoys. In session 2, we got the heads finished, and I did want to mention I spent a little bit of time sanding carefully around the eye, the epoxy sculpt putty that we use to set the eyes, so I got that done. Just a note on that, you've got to really protect those glass eyes when you're sanding around them, because sandpaper will just scratch glass in an instant. So I always just keep a thumb on the eye as I'm sanding around. You can use masking tape or you can just try to be careful, but it's amazing how often you have a little slip and scratch an eye. So just a tip there. Today we'll work on the bodies of both the hen and the drake and hopefully get them rough rounded and kind of shaped up and ready for detailing. There's going to be some differences between the hen and the drake. The hen, I'm going to have the primaries on the sides, kind of in a relaxed pose with those drop down. The drake, I'm going to go ahead and cross the primaries. So a couple of different techniques there that we'll take a look at. If you're getting value out of my channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button. That really helps me out. It doesn't cost anything, doesn't commit you to anything, but it is a show of support for the YouTube channel that I'm putting together for wildfowl and decoy carvers. Hopefully this is a resource that people can use a long time from now. That's my goal anyway, along with today. So let's get started. I've done a little bit of layout work. I'm not worried about side pockets right now, other than I put a pencil mark at the end of the side pockets so that we keep that in mind as we're rounding. I did a little bit of work on thinking about the position of the heads. I'm going to inset the head and drop it down and kind of have it turn to the left. So I wanted to mark out on both bodies kind of where the head is going to reside, so as we're rounding the breast we don't remove too much material in that area. I've also marked the position of the tail and used my pattern to transpose that onto the carving, both sides. And then I marked in the wingtips. So as I'm removing wood back here in the rounding process, I don't mistakenly take too much wood off where I want the primaries and tertials to lie. So now we'll get started on just rough rounding both bodies. Hey, just a quick Fordham repair note here. As I was starting to carve, the Fordham started making some noise and then quit rotating altogether. And that's the first time that's happened. I've had this TX for many, many years, but looking online, I did have some replacement brushes. They look like this. They're spring loaded. And I got these with the unit. So periodically, Googling it, it looks like you have to replace the brushes. Most of you probably know that already, but as long as I'm here, I thought I would mention it in case you had not done this. The brushes are right in these locations. One brush on each side. It's very easy to use a screwdriver to take this cap out. It is spring loaded, so don't lose the cap, but basically the brushes that I pulled out were pretty well worn down. And they say when they get to 1/4 of an inch or so, it's time to replace. And that's what I did. It took about 5 minutes. Put the brushes in, make sure they're located correctly, put the caps back on, and I'm back in business. So I'm really impressed with Fordham. They made it very easy to replace the brushes. That's enough on that, but I just thought I'd put it in here in case you've never run into that before with your Fordham. I'm going to use this 3/4 inch round nosed saber-tooth burr, and this is 2 times speed, just so you're aware. You would be carving slower than this, but this way we can see a lot of the carving process and get through it faster. Right now I'm just working in the breast area, trying to define that, round everything, and create a little bit of separation between the breast and the side pocket there. There's a little bit of a groove that runs down where the neck tucks into the body, and the breast is separated somewhat from the body in that position. Doing the other side in a similar fashion. This particular piece of tupelo is fairly hard, so I've just got to go at this slowly. It just takes a little longer. There's nothing wrong with the piece of tupelo. It's a good piece of wood. It's just you run into pieces that are super soft that are a joy to carve, and a piece every once in a while that is on the hard side, like this one is. The goal of this particular segment is just generally round things. So we've taken some of the material off with the bandsaw. That saves a little bit of this grinding time. But now I'm just ferring that bandsaw cut into the rest of the body. And this will take quite a bit of time to round off this body. I'm just going to go at it slowly. Just a word of safety on anybody that's new to grinding, and even those of you that have been grinding for quite a while, you just have to really be careful. These are powerful tools. You want to keep all clothing away from that bit, because if it snags a shirt or an apron, it's going to twist it up in an instant. Hopefully the shaft will break, but if it doesn't, it can cause injury. So you need to be very careful with these. Now I'm working to relieve the tail area there on both sides, and on the hin, those primaries are going to be laying down. So I've kind of penciled where they are so that I don't remove wood in that area. You can see I just snagged the burr there, and it zipped across the tail profile. And so particularly in this area, you need to go slow, because there's ingrain back here, and it can have a tendency to catch on the burr and make it jump. So just be very cautious. That particular, and they can snag and then roll in the direction of the rotation. So just in general, you're going to note that I keep my hands far away from the burr, and I try to carve defensively, just like driving. Just assume the worst is going to happen, and keep that in mind at all times. Just reposition your hands so that they're not in a position to take a strike from the burr. You can see I've kind of shaped that up. General rounding, nice round profile from the front. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Before I do that, I'm working to define the lower edge of the side pocket there. So I'm cutting a groove in and then rounding that out. That side pocket returns under the belly a little bit, and then smoothing that out under the rump. Now I'm going to switch to the 3/4 inch cylinder saber-tooth burr, and I'm going to use that to carefully define the tail above and below. So it's a little hard to see in this video, but we should have better views coming up. I'm just working that down to the guideline on both sides. and then rounding the tail covert area into that. Now I'm going to carefully work underneath the tail, going super slow. I'm keeping this at regular speed because I'm carving against the grain here. So if I push too hard, that burr is really going to want to snag. So just take a little bit at a time and no problem. Then I'm going to flip it over and work from the other direction down towards the tail. I'm doing a great job of covering up the carving bit with my arms here. But you can see the result of that. And now I'm going to round the rump area. I'm leaving about a 1/4 inch thickness on the tail for strength, since this is not a decorative decoy. Just hitting the edges of the tail there and cleaning things up in general. So I'll do that on the opposite side and then we can move on. A little farther along here, and I'm just rounding the rump on the opposite side to finish that up, and you can see I've defined the underside of the tail there. And just rough rounding this area. Here's a look at the tail after the carving has been finished. Now I'm going to use the edge of that burr to dig in to this back area where the tertials are separate and scapulars are separated, and a little bit of the back feathers are showing here. So I'm just digging down along that guideline that I've given for myself to start that process. Just working very slow. You can see I kind of have it on an angle. And then that's the back of the cape. I'm just working to define that a little bit, just so I know where it is. And now I can begin to round down into that area. And this area in between is going to be a little bit lower than the surrounding scapulars and tertials. So once I get this rounded, I'm going to remove that material in the middle. We'll take that out. And to do that, I'm going to switch to the marathon grinder and switch to a kind of a flame-shaped burr or a cone-shaped burr so that I can get into that tight area and just begin removing material. So we want this area to be below the surrounding feather groups. So I'm just going to work this burr back and forth, take it down on this side first, and then switch around and take it down on the opposite side as well, and leave it a little bit crowned in the middle, because that body is not dead flat in that area. It's still a little bit rounded. Working against the grain here, so again, just go slow and steady. And now I'll speed the rest of this video up as I just clean this area up a bit. So I'm at 2x speed and just working the burr to continue to remove material. We'll leave the primaries up a little bit higher than this rump area. And I'm just kind of rolling it alongside to get the area shaped up. While I'm in the area, I'm going to use that burr to begin to develop the angle on the primaries, kind of take off some of the hard edges. Now I want to just use my pencil to kind of redefine the lines and see what else needs to be done. I'm going to switch to a cone shaped or bullet shaped ruby bit and use that now to further define the edges of these feather groups and do some sanding with that ruby bit to smooth things out so we don't have any grinding marks. All right, I've worked on the drake's body and I got it rough rounded, including shaping up the tail, the breast area. I won't show that video because it's just more of the same, very similar process, same process that we used on the hen to rough round. But I will have a little video on the creation of these crossed primaries, and we'll go in and carve those now and just rough them in. And that takes a little different approach than on the hen's body where we had the primaries kind of drop down. And now I'm using the cylindrical 3/4 inch burr to carefully go in and begin to define the primaries. Since the drake has cross primaries, I did want to show the approach I'm using to that challenge. So this 3/4 inch burr removes wood very fast. You just have to maintain good control. So I'm cutting that V notch out, removing the bulk of the wood. I'll come back and clean that up with a smaller burr or bit. Now I'm using the edge of that to define that side of the primary group and take that side down lower. So removing material around the back of the bird so it's not so boxy back there. Now I'm just carefully defining the end of the primary group. I'm going against the grain here, so super slow in multiple passes to define the edge of that other primary group. And start taking wood out around the cross primary grouping. Now I'm lowering that underlying primary feather group so that it's at a lower level than the ones on top of it. And those primary groups angle down towards the side pocket. So we're going to want to develop that shape on both sets of primaries. Just starting to remove wood and round that area above the rump and close to this primary group. I'm not speeding this up because I just want to emphasize you need to go slow in this area with this end grain, and with a burr it's easy to take off too much wood. So just go very slowly. Now I'm going to use the burr to begin to develop an angle down on those primary groups towards this corresponding side pocket and just kind of shape that up. We'll come back later and refine that. This is just roughing things in. Now I'm working to get that other side at an elevation that's going to match up with the underlying primary group. So when they angle down into the opposite side pocket, This level down here needs to match up with that angle. Now I'm removing wood in that coverts area to blend them into the tail and take out excess wood and just round this rump area. Now I'm going to switch to a little bullet-shaped ruby bit so that I can get into these areas around the primary groups and remove wood and blend them into the surrounding area. I'm also using this bit just to remove grinding lines and smooth things up a bit prior to sanding. Okay, I want to do a little layout work on both birds, and I've got a measurement from off of my pattern from the front of the breast to the back of the cape, and then I've got a reference measurement from the back of the cape up to where the wing tucks into the side pocket up front. So I'm drawing little arcs there just so we have a reference dimension. Also from my pattern, I know the distance outward from the center line to where that meets this point. And so where those two things match up, that becomes the front, and then this wraps around like that. So I know that's a critical point right there on both sides. Now I'm going to use my side pattern and my calipers. Mark on here on both sides, put a little mark where the top of the side pocket is. If you've seen my other videos, you've seen me do this before, but I'm going to pretend like this is primarily for newer carvers who may not have seen those videos, so I'm going to include some layout work in this as well. Then a dimension down here where it drops down at the front. That's from the bottom of the decoy. Again, leaving a little mark there. Same thing over here to keep symmetry. Let me check that. Yeah, that didn't look right. My my calipers had come apart a little bit. So it also helps to kind of know what it should look like so you can avoid mistakes. Now I'm going to look at my pattern and get a reference dimension on the width out here and the width at the side pockets, and go from the center line, mark that out. I have that mark, and up here, this mark again from the center line. Do it this way so you can see better. Now I want to connect those. They come together right here. And then the side pocket of this hen is fairly high and wraps around so that we don't have a lot of width back here. Same thing here. I want to get one more dimension, and that is right here at the corner to see how high that comes back. That looks pretty good. So right on that. This is too low. All right, I'll do the same thing on the drake. One thing we want to keep in mind on the hen, these primaries are drooped down here on either side, and the speculum is going to be somewhere down in here. So I want to be careful as I'm removing material here that I leave some material for the speculum carving that we want to do. And on the drake, when I lay him out, I want to put a little exposed speculum to create some more interest and just show that beautiful group of feathers. So I'm going to pull the side pocket short here, and then the wing is tucking in and the speculum is laying over the remainder of the side pocket. So we don't want to shorten the side pocket. It's still there. It's just a group of feathers that this is tucked between. So I'll need to leave wood in this area of the drake to make sure I have wood to carve that speculum in. I'm going to go 2 times speed, and I'm using my 3/4 inch cylindrical burr to remove that material between those 2 guidelines and take the side pocket profile down to the lower line, and then from the top down match both of those lines. I thought the cape was a little long, looked a little long to me, so I'm going to shorten that up a bit. In this position, that cape looked like it was too far back, so I made that modification. Just a quick change. Now I'm going to start rounding. Once I have that groove at the proper depth, I'm going to start rounding in both directions. Up on the back and scapulars there, and then go from the other direction and around the side pocket, going down like this. So we don't want a shelf there. We want those to be nice and rounded and just kind of blend into that line where they meet the scapulars. I'll jump ahead a little here. Just finishing that side and now going to the next side, same process. So I won't repeat all of that. Just show a few pieces of carving this side as well. Okay, I've got that side pocket kind of finished up. So we've got good symmetry from side to side, nice roundness, nothing flat. Work on the cape a little bit to round that into the surrounding scapulars. That's looking pretty good. Just want to pause for a second in the grinding and go back and do a caliper check on the dimensions. After I've done some carving, that looks good. Top of the side pocket. That looks good. That looks good on that side. I want to check the width from the top down. And that's right on the money. Also back at the side pocket level. That is a little wide, but actually I'm okay with that wide from my pattern because I do want to drop these the speculum in here, secondaries and tertials. So I want to have a little wood here and not pinch this in too much so I'm too narrow at the back. So that's looking good. Now I'll work on the drake and get that shaped up in a similar fashion. On the drake, this is a good example. On this side pocket, I'm going to dig right in like I did on the hen. Hit this line going down. I'm good to go. On this side, since I've got that wing pulled out a little, out further into the side pocket. I can't dig in as far back here as I normally would to define a side pocket. So I'm going to dig in here, and you'll see that, and then define some curvature there, like a pocket, a group of feathers overlaying the wing, and then leave material in here, but then relieve some up here, and then do work here. Easier to show you than to talk through that. Okay, this is at 2 times speed, and I'm back to the 3/4 inch cylindrical burr. I'm going to define that side pocket just like we did on the hen. So I won't go through all of that. I'll just show you the beginning of this and kind of some snapshots along the way. So I've got that side pocket pretty well shaped up. That looks pretty good. Now I need to begin work on this other side pocket. So near the front, I'm going to dive down and just exactly the same as on the opposite side. It's near the back that I need to pay attention. So I'm beginning to define that short side pocket feather group by digging in and then relieving wood around it, but not taking out so much wood that I don't have enough left to carve in the speculum. I know I'm repeating myself there, but I've done that many times and just trying to help you avoid a mistake. So now I'm just rounding that side pocket feather group. Sorry, that's off out of the screen. There's a better shot. I'm just rounding in both directions. And for now, I'm not going to worry too much about defining the scapulars. We'll do that in the next session when we add details. Right now, I'm just looking for rough shapes. Now I'm going to dig in along the back of the primaries and the back of that speculum as it tucks into the side pocket, and then remove material down to the coverts. I'll give you a better shot of this area in just a second. There. So I'm shaping up that area just to lower it a bit so that it looks like it's tucked into that group of side pocket feathers. Just cleaning that area up. That looks pretty good. It's a good start. Now I need to work on this opposite side. There's a lot of wood dust flying, so don't forget to wear your respirator. Protect your lungs. All right, everybody. This seems like a good place to end session 3. We've got the bodies shaped, rough shaped. We got a lot accomplished today, including I got my hair cut. Not that that should matter at all, or that you should notice that. We've got the bodies shaped up. In the next session, we'll refine the bodies and get them finished up. We'll get the heads inserted into the bodies at the proper attitude. And until then, I did want to pause and just give a shout out to everybody that has subscribed, and to those that are just tuning into the channel. I understand sometimes it's difficult to go through the process of subscribing. You have to register as a YouTube user. That's free. Then you can subscribe to somebody's channel like my own. But even if you don't subscribe, thank you for your support. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the suggestions. Thank you for the encouragement and the feedback I'm getting from those of you out there that are just starting to carve, getting great enjoyment out of it, starting to carve again, used to carve, picking it up. Those are so encouraging. That's what this channel is all about. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next session.